this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. You know, from my perspective as a long-term XRP holder, I think things are looking fantastic. I mean, XRP hovering around $3, that's a dream come true scenario if you've told any XRP holder over the last several years roughly. Yeah, actually, it's just going to be staying around there for a while, finding support at that high up. I think pretty much any reasonable, rational XRP holder would be very excited about that and understand, wow, we made it, and it's probably going to go way higher as a result. That would be a reasonable thought. But as it turns out, increasingly, XRP holders are getting desperate. Now, I don't believe that it's most XRP holders. I really don't. I think that it's a small few in the community who are very noisy, and then it makes it seem like that's all there is. But I still want to address this because it turns out I am not the only one noticing this in the community. And if you're on social media, you've probably picked up on this as well. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, here's a post from chart analyst Crypto Insight UK. He posted this on Thursday. He said, "Everyone hates XRP right now. Even the holders. I'm getting multiple comments per post about how XRP doesn't do anything, or they can't take it anymore, or how they've sold. This tells me we are close to our next leg. Infighting and despair isn't a mark of a top." And folks, he is absolutely correct about that. You do not find this type of whining and bitching at the top of a market. You simply do not. You find euphoria. In fact, if you're the one that starts saying at the top of a market that, hey guys, you should be a little concerned, like market's looking a bit toppy here, we might be going to the downside, all of these people will be screaming at you that you're wrong and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Now, of course, in reality, they're the ones who will be proven wrong, but they'll assert you're the one that's wrong. So when you have this many people showing the typical lemming retail speculator sentiment, and they're showing it with what they're typing on the internet here, you can see this. When they're displaying that, you should take comfort in that. That's not a top signal. That's not how this works. That's why he's saying, like, when you have this much despair, he wrote here again, this tells me we are close to our next leg. Well, I don't doubt that. And so here is my response to Crypto Insight UK. I wrote back and said, I'm seeing the same thing on X. Certainly not as severe as the multi-year period that XRP price was languishing due to... did I write that? I think I missed a word. When? I'm just going to start. I'm seeing the same thing on X. Certainly not as severe, I think I meant to write, as when the multi-year period, or the multi-year period that XRP price was languishing. No, I wrote it right. Due to SEC lawsuit as well as the bear market. But yes, I agree. It's increasingly noticeable that a number of XRP holders are no longer happy with XRP, which to me is so fascinating. Most of the time I've held XRP since 2017, it was probably closer to 30 cents. Right now, it's about $3. People need patience and perspective. So these people that are bitching up a storm, if they've been here a long time, I have to wonder, why are you complaining then? If you're one of the people that has been here for many, many years, that means that you are up huge on your XRP holdings, percentage-wise. If that's true, if you've really been here that long. And if you're not here that long, and you could say, well, it's easy for you to say Moon Lambo with your stupid-ass name on your YouTube channel, and it's a stupid name, but I have a sense of humor, it turns out. You could say, it's easy for you to say Moon Lambo, because you've been here that long, so of course you've gotten these crazy returns. I'm like, yeah, how do you think I got that? Did I behave like you and jump in and buy something and then expect to have a Lambo on the moon immediately? No, I did not. I bought with a very, very long-term mindset. My attitude has always been whatever it takes because XRP makes sense. It is an early winner of the crypto space. So yeah, I'm not bitching up a storm about it. I'm frankly, this is the most happy I've ever been as an XRP holder. And I'm just as patient as I was the day that I first purchased XRP on November 17th of 2017. It doesn't make logical sense to be feeling these feels, but I do expect humans to display that they are feeling such feels. Even though XRP is the best positioned it's ever been in history and the number one performing coin out of the top 100 coins by market cap since the November election last year. But still, we get this. And he's right. And just think about all the crap that we went through over the last nearly half a decade with the SEC crap. We're on the other side of that. XRP's got legal clarity, more adoption than ever before. Publicly traded companies announcing that they are holding XRP as a treasury reserve asset. Like that's dream scenario stuff for most of us that have been here the better part of a decade. That's the dream scenario stuff that you dream would happen, and then people would say, that'd never happen. A publicly traded company holding XRP, you idiot. Except for it's happened. Many times over it's happened, and it's only going to increase. Why the negativity? And by the way, I'm going to show you some reasons to be very optimistic as we go through the video. There are so many key indicators that, yeah, this market is going to almost certainly burst to the upside before we enter a bear market. Here's a post from chart analyst Cryptolica, and I've seen people share this post before. I might have even reposted it at some point in the past, and I like it. And so he shared this image, and it shows a chart, squiggles mostly, it looks like it's mostly moving sideways, and then under that it says days. So that's representative of the type of price chart you might see over a short period of time, over a span of days. Then in the middle, you see a line that you can see it's trending up, sometimes a little bit down, maybe like here a little bit down, and sometimes less steeply upward than others. But under that, there's one word, years. So that's what a chart would look like in crypto over a span of years, because over a long enough time period, we do trend upward. And then there's the third one that says decades, and that son of a bitch looks like a freaking hockey stick right there, just about. You can see how it just... it curves. It's an exponential increase, really. But yes, that is what you would expect over a span of decades. That's what it looks like. And so you're bitching about this, the part where it's just days, and you're not focusing on this part on the right where it's decades. Not that you even have to hold decades to get life-changing wealth in crypto. I'm not saying that you do. Depends on how much you put in and if you have broad and reasonable exposure to the asset class or a number of factors. But if we're going here and you have this once-in-a-species opportunity to purchase crypto at the advent of the asset class, what are you doing bitching up a storm about this? Have some freaking perspective, please. Come on. And so he shared this, and Cryptolica wrote, ignore the noise, XRP 37 cents. And in sharing this image, it was with a repost of something he shared, a post from him, on November 17th of 2022. So this was in the depths of hell, effectively. This is after the FTX collapse, right? And so he posted amidst the FTX collapse, again, November 17th, 2022, buy XRP, and it was 37 cents. Now, it would have been more understandable to see people bitching back then, and people were. Now, I still had the attitude of, yeah, this is awful, it's terrible, this happened to people, it's not good, the net worth of everybody, including myself in crypto, is going down, but I still believe much higher if you just let enough time pass. This is not going to kill the crypto asset class. It's a setback. Major setback, but it's not going to kill us. That was less than 3 years ago, and here we are. And then he ended up with an asset class that, at its peak this year, was a little over $4.1 trillion. You gotta have patience, you gotta have perspective here. It does not make sense to bitch up a storm. Be an adult, be a big boy. It's gonna be okay. Not that all of these coins are gonna make it. There's gonna be all sorts of stuff that goes to zero ultimately. But isn't it obvious that XRP is an early winner of the crypto space? I argue, yes, absolutely, unquestionably. Here's a post from chart analyst Credible Crypto. He was responding to somebody who wrote 4 times, I consider consolidation boring. Because Credible Crypto has been arguing all that's happening right now is regular, good old-fashioned consolidation. People are accumulating if they so choose. Nothing weird here. It does take a while to break out of this, but not a big deal. And I'm paraphrasing. These are my words now, not his. But that's the concept. And frankly, at the end of a bull market, which is what we're in right now, we're in the later phases, almost every single chart analyst will agree with that. Well, if indeed we are, then you should also know that even though there is consolidation, and yeah, you can certainly accurately argue we're going through that now, each phase of consolidation is way shorter than in the depth of the bear market. So were whoever, if you listening to this, were you here in the bear market? If you weren't, I could understand how you could need this perspective, so I hope this is helpful to you. But if you were here in the depths of the bear market, what part don't you get yet? I have to ask, respectfully, tell me, what don't you understand yet? Or is it just that you logically know this, but you have trouble controlling your emotions? That's a harder one. I have trouble suggesting what to do in that situation other than just gain more experience. I don't know, because I don't have that trouble. If something logically makes sense, I personally, the way I'm wired, I don't have trouble just accepting that's the case and then moving on with life, just generally speaking. It doesn't even have to do with crypto necessarily. If I'm presented with data, that's the case. I'm just like, oh, okay, well, that's out of my control, and just go on with life. Because that's the other thing about this, and I mentioned this in my last video too, it's worth repeating though. You can't control when the market goes. So why are you stressing about it anyway? Either you have exposure when it does ultimately go, or you don't. Do you want the exposure so you get the life-changing wealth? Well, you do have to unfortunately go through this. There's really no other reasonable way to get there. But since you can't control it, well, if you can't control it and you just accept that and you know the market's trending upward, what is the problem? And so here's the post from Credible Crypto, one of the most popular analysts in the space, 476,000 followers. He's been an XRP holder the better part of a decade, I think since 2017. So he's been here, I'm pretty sure he's been here about the same amount of time as me. And he gets it here. People are bored, people are impatient, people are fearful. And so he wrote the following. Unfortunately, in this space, to make life-changing wealth, you sometimes have to be bored. I know it's difficult, but in this space, you simply can't work your way up the corporate ladder for 40 years just to finally make it, or still barely scrape by. You don't get to slave away at a 9 to 5 and answer to a boss that doesn't give a shit about you. You don't get to commute 45 minutes into the city just to get to work, and you don't get to deal with traffic on the way back. You don't get to take 1-hour lunch breaks in the middle of your 8-hour shift. You have no one to kiss ass to, no one to answer to, no one to check in with you about your progress except yourself. Now, folks, do you actually want all of those things? Isn't the point to get out of this? And isn't the alternative to not being a crypto, isn't it way, way, way more stressful, way, way, way more soul crushing than this? I mean, I would argue the answer is yes for many people. I think so. There are so many people not doing stuff in life that would actually bring them genuine contentment in life. You know, I'm not even, and when people tend to say happiness, and sometimes I do too. I hope that we all understand that the goal should not be every day to wake up blissfully happy. That's not reasonable, normal, or realistic in any capacity. It should be, you should always appreciate the joyful, truly happy moments when you have them, because they're always, even if you're properly positioned in life, they're always going to be somewhat rare. So just appreciate them when they come. The goal should be to eliminate the misery that you're in. Just having a regular, nice, pleasant day where you're not blissfully joyful, that should be the reasonable goal so far as I'm concerned. So get rid of all this crap that he's talking about here. Like, sure, find something that brings you, that lights your fire, that you feel passion for, and do that. But an easy way to get there, it is with crypto. It actually is true. It actually is. This is a real thing. I'm living it myself. And I'm not a wizard. There's nothing special about me. I'm not a finance guru. I just bought a bunch of stuff and I held for a long time, and I just refused to sell it. I was stubborn about it. And so I see all these people getting desperate. I'm like, you are just not going to make it if you can't figure this stuff out, which is why I'm making this video. We are so close to the finish line. That's why I'm making this video. I see this. I know that Crypto Insight UK, when he wrote what he wrote, is right. There's a reason Credible Crypto is writing this post at a time like this. We're so close to the finish line, and there are some people that want to give up. And again, I don't think it's most people in the XRP community, but it does give you the impression it's most people when they're so noisy. They are a noisy, noisy bunch. I think most people do get this. I think that even though it's not like fun to go through literally everything, fine. I think that most people here anyway, who are informed sufficiently, I think that they do accept it. I think it is fine. It's just hard to get that vibe if you're just viewing stuff on social media. And then Credible Crypto said, unfortunately, you do have to work out of your own home on your own time at your own pace. And he's talking about just being in crypto. And he says, you do have to decide your own hours, decide when to take breaks, and decide when you want to have lunch. You do have to wake up at whatever time you want, work whatever hours you want, and work from wherever you want. And sometimes you do have to be bored. It sucks, I know. So if you really hate having to be bored to print money, the big corporations would probably love to have you. I think that's well worded. You get the vibe. He's so right. So you could just not be in crypto, then you don't have to bitch about it and be bored, and then you can just go slave away for the next several decades. I mean, if that is that better? Because I don't think so. I sure as hell don't think. I mean, financial freedom, that's the goal, right? Isn't that why we're here? That's why I'm here. To expedite the process of financial freedom. And oh, has it. It has for me. And I hope it is for you guys listening. And if you're brand new, just know the opportunity is very real. And yes, it is there. It absolutely is. I have nothing to sell you. I'm just speaking from experience here. I know this is true. And you don't even have to just believe me. You can just go look at the data, what has happened over the time, or any time period. You can look at the time period I've been in crypto or any time period. The answer is it's trended upwards, including XRP. It just is true. You just have exposure and then you win. So if you want to be rich, you actually can just decide, hey, I want to be rich, and then do those things that get you there. You don't have to invent a product. You don't have to invent some sort of new service. You just need to invest. You need to have broad exposure and then for however long it takes, and then you get it. If you put in enough, you're investment wise. Yes, the answer is you actually do get it. You can choose to do that. You can make life choices to get you there. You can stop blowing money on stupid stuff. You can stop taking on debt that you don't absolutely have to take on. You don't need a gigantic car payment. I'm just telling. These are some things, or you can have all that, and then you can just have much less money to invest, and then a decade later, you're gonna have a busted ass, depreciated car or whatever it is. You're gonna have massive credit card debt if you choose to. I mean, it's your choice. Or you could live a humble lifestyle in the short term, put a reasonable amount of money into crypto, and then just be ridiculously wealthy for the rest of your life. And it's not like it takes a crazy amount of time to do this. It really doesn't, folks. Here's a post from chart analyst Malius. He said, perfect storm is around the corner and you are not ready for what's coming. Why? And he's got bullet points here. One of the worst sentiments in general. Now, folks, that's exactly correct. I'm telling you, Crypto Insight UK was right when he said that. Malius, he's noticed the same thing. Bad sentiment here in general is not what happens at the top of a market cycle. It never has, and I don't think it ever will. Unless by coincidence there's a true black swan event that coincides with that. Outside of that, nope. I don't think so, folks. That's just not... Humans are biological robots. On the whole, we're going to keep doing as a group the same things over and over and over again. You, on an individual level, can change to whatever degree you want to. That's the empowering part of this. But on the whole, there was always going to be people that are dying, people who are younger who have to learn, and you're just going to get this loop of people in general demonstrating the same types of human behaviors. And so, yeah, when the sentiment's in the gutter like this, that's good. That's if you want the market to go up, yeah, that's good. You should be fearful when the typical lemming retail speculator is like, no, it's never going to stop. It's going up forever. Blah, 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 blah. When you hear that shit, that's when you should be afraid. And then he says, Ethereum chilling below all-time highs, looking prime on higher time frames. So big picture, he's saying Ethereum looks great, which is fantastic because that kicks off alt season, folks. Historically, it has. And then he says, majority of altcoins suppressed within historically long accumulation ranges. My friends, the wider the base, the higher in space. The dorky phrase is, meaning the longer an asset consolidates, the greater the force with which it bursts when it finally does. And we're in a bull market, so I'm that force is going to be the upside. Then he says Bitcoin dominance looking bearish on higher time frame. Well, that's fantastic. That's unquestionably true. Earlier today, I saw it at like 58% roughly, down from a recent high of 66%. That's what you want to see. You want to see that crumbling. Even though I expect Bitcoin price almost certainly to go for its last parabolic rally, you'll see the dominance decrease, and that's when you see altcoins take off. And then he says others' dominance looking bullish on higher time frame. That's right. That would be altcoins. The dominance of altcoins, chart-wise, looking bullish, very positive big picture. And then he says flip-flopping at record levels. Yeah, there has been a lot of back and forth. We're so back. Oh, it's so over. We're so back. Oh, it's so over. Anytime there's like a fairly minimal move, you can start to see it. It's just, but see, that's the other thing. When you get a string of those, then you ultimately end up with even more negative people, which I think is what we're seeing right now. So, par for the course. And then he says, U.S. small cap stocks breaking above important supply zone. Bam! I'm so glad he recognizes this. The blockchain backer is the first one I ever saw highlight this important thing, this important metric. But if you're looking at US small cap stocks, Russell 2000 specifically, that only expands, and you only see true breadth and expansion in that at the same time that altcoins are taking off. It's always coincided since the inception of this asset class. We're seeing that start to take off. The Russell 2000 was up almost 4% in one of the days last week. That is rare. And I think it's only about 3% away from its all-time high. Do you see how close this thing is? And so he says, being higher time frame bearish here is neglecting all those facts. Good luck. Spot on. That's why I reposted that. That's an excellent post. Here's a post from Mikey Bull Crypto. He says, calm before the storm based on what I'm seeing right now. Alt season signs, like previous cycle, have started showing. Unfortunately, many are ignoring it as they did in the previous cycle. Right. So I'm delivering, I hope, what is perceived as a very positive message because I'm excited right now. I think it makes logical sense to be excited now. When I get afraid, then maybe it actually makes logical sense to be afraid. Like seriously, like if you ever see me screaming the sky is falling, maybe something's actually wrong then. Okay, because I don't fall for these traps every time there's a little market dip here. But eventually we will find a market top, and I will be talking about that as the alarm bells start sounding. But here, Mikey Bull Crypto acknowledging the same thing that seasoned analysts all acknowledge, which is that, guys, here all these facts, and he's been highlighting a ton of factors on his page. I've shared some of his thoughts in recent days and weeks. Yes, things look so perfectly primed right now. This is what happens right before the market goes. That is the truth. If history is to rhyme with itself, there you go. That's why he's saying calm before the storm. Yes. The answer is yes. Here's a post from chart analyst Bobby A. This is XRP here. And he says, XRP, by the time the move fully materializes, many will not even recognize what has just transpired. We are in the window. That said, focus less on time and more on higher time frame structure and targets. So you can see where he's comparing this, I guess, a lighter blue color to 2 cycles ago when XRP went completely ballistic here. He's just notating here. There's plenty of room to the upside. And he's marking this top here around $9.49, so close to double digits. Not that he thinks it has to stop there, but he's making a point here. It is so perfectly primed right now. It just, man, it's ridiculous and unreasonable to not be excited right now. That's my opinion. It is ridiculous and unreasonable to not be. And people just have, well, a couple things. People have trouble controlling the emotions, and then people are lacking data. And then there's some people that get a double whammy. Or I wouldn't say, well, actually I said that the wrong, incorrectly. If you're a person that does have the data and still can't control your emotions, that's where I'm like, that's like I said earlier in the video, I have trouble. I would have trouble there advising how to handle that. Not in terms of buying or selling. I'm never advising on that, but just in terms of how to wrap your head around what's going on in the space and then allowing the reality of that to seep into you so that you no longer feel these silly emotions that you don't need to feel. That's difficult, but some people are just, they're going to have a harder time at that. And that is unfortunate, but that's why I said, like, I don't know what else to tell you. Just, I do think there is something to living through it yourself as opposed to just seeing it on a chart. You can read through it, and that does help people. That helped me a ton. But it is different. It slaps different when eventually you're here long enough. Part of it is you get numb to it, but you genuinely believe it if it's your own life experience. I think that's it. So for some people, I think you're just going to have to like brute force yourself through this, or you don't have a shot even. That's the thing. Here's chart analyst Zoom, XRP USD chart on the screen. He says, last week I mentioned how XRP needed to hold this line to maintain the high time frame structure. It means maintain the high time frame structure as well. We got the weekly close above it, so that's good news, obviously. He says, as for the short time frame, it's some juicy volatility, and for spot holders, ... noise. And so there's another analyst who is telling you, based on experience, yeah, volatility in the short term, which I think is effectively an acknowledgement. Yeah, you don't know in the short, it could go lower, it could go higher. If you're just holding XRP, it's noise and it does not matter, period. It simply does not matter, and that is that. Simply put, that is that. Everything is fine. XRP, as I record this, wrapping up the video, $2.94. All is right in the world. And even if it's lower by the time you're watching this, so what? Talk to somebody 10 years from now and ask them if they wished that they could buy XRP at $2.94. I'm guessing the answer is going to be yes. And by the way, the people that came before me, it's not like it's not like anybody's getting a free ride here. You understand, even the people that got to sell at the peak in early 2018 at $3.35, and they rode it from half a penny all the way up to that high. First of all, it's not like they all nailed the top. Second of all, in order to go through that, there are a lot of them that would have had to have held for close to half a decade. You realize that? This is normal. It's normal in crypto because there are market cycles. A lot of people would have bought in 2013 and then sold in 2018 if they're actually getting close to the top, somewhere thereabout. And yeah, that's true that me, and I'm sure many of you listening have had to hold longer than that, actually. I'm sure the number of you have had to, and we've had to go through that. But that's because the SEC decided to attack all XRP holders on a global scale by filing that stupid-ass lawsuit against Ripple. So that's not our fault. You couldn't know that that was going to happen here. But that's the only reason that it's longer. So yeah, we had to go through more trials and tribulations, effectively, sure. But it doesn't mean that there then isn't opportunity. What we're actually seeing is that XRP, despite all of that, it's number 3 in market cap in this entire freaking asset class. It's showing more strength than ever before. It's showing that it deserves to be here. So yeah, we had to go through that, but it's been playing catch up. And I don't think it's done, folks. I think this thing's going way higher. A big picture. It's an obvious early winner of the crypto space. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.